Okay, we are live. Excellent. Um, Welcome, everybody. I don't know, we'll see who jumps on here. If you jump on and are listening, just let us know in the comments. Um, so, I want to welcome Kim Rendon. She is a women's health coach who specializes in hormonal health and gut health. And I noticed you have like a lot of certifications, life coach, you have your dietitian, your bachelor's degree. Um, and so I just want to hear about like your story. So what, because I find that everybody has a story when it comes to their passions, like what led them to the type of work that they do. And so if you want to just share that, that would be awesome.
Great. Yeah. I don't know. It's funny because I keep saying I kind of just fell into what I'm doing now. I had seen in one of my professional journals, because I've been a dietitian for 31 years now, but something that was talking about how health coaches can help, what I want to say, with the lifestyle diseases. And I
Yeah.
know as a dietitian, I can only do this much of what, I don't have that intent where you can do that intense counseling like you can as a health coach. Um, and knowing that my kids were going to graduate, or my youngest was going to graduate from school, and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life now that it wasn't involved in school and sports and everything else. I decided to take it a health coach course, which was actually a dual health and life coach certification. And then it's just gone from there. I had one of my friends say, well, now that you're doing health coaching, what do you know about menopause? And I
Oh,
started researching. And the more I researched, the more I just was like, there is something here. Things that I missed in my journey through menopause that I related to other things. I had had an ablation in my early 40s. And so I never took into account anything that was happening to me as being hormonally based, not having teenagers and doing a full time mom job and doing everything else. And now I look at it and I was like, I don't want women to struggle through this. And I know, because I didn't think like menopause until I started having hot flashes.
mm-hmm.
But now, knowing what I know and going back and looking at some of the things I experienced, like how easily I stressed, the overwhelm, the anxiety, the mood swings, all of that I had going on, I never, because I didn't have that monthly bleeding either,
Yeah.
still doing that cycling, the hormonal
Yes.
cycles. It just never put the two and two together to say, this is what's going on with me. And so things are all starting to click now that these things were happening. And so, yeah, about 15% of women have very debilitating menopause experiences. But there's also this other part that we don't realize is going on that's part of it, and that doctors tend to just poo poo us away and say it's all in your head or you just have to live
Oh,
with
yeah.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh huh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like, perimenopause, menopause, at least for myself, like it's, I'm sure everybody has a different and unique experience, but I sure as heck know that my mom doesn't, never talk to me about it much. It's not widely talked about. It kind of suddenly, you hit that age and you're like, oh, okay, I guess this is when like the change starts to happen. But there really isn't. Um, we're not educated
Mm-mm.
as young women. We're not educated about it. It's kind of like you just sort of suddenly arrive and you don't realize like, oh, I guess I probably could have been doing things to prepare my body for this change, right?
Mm-hmm. And we don't realize that this whole journey starts like typically mid 40s, but can be even mid 30s when
Yeah.
it starts. And so we don't know that all of this, the body aches or the exhaustion, or like my asthma got worse, my blood sugar, I had a worse time with my blood sugar. All of that was can be related back to hormone fluctuations and losing your hormones. And so it's just, and of course, like you said, we don't know. I mean, the only thing I knew about my mom was she said she just um, didn't have bad hot flashes. That's the only thing she ever told me.
She didn't have hot flashes?
No, she said, barely any. And I
Okay.
was like, and so that's what I knew about my mom's menopause. And she had me when she was 19. So by the time she actually was hitting that point, I was out of high school into college and on my own. And so I didn't even see anything like what was happening with her because I wasn't really around the house. So, and my sister is younger than me. So it was like, we didn't get to see all that or know what was going on. And even one of my ebooks, the Gen X Survival Guide, this isn't your mother's menopause. It's so different in the things we know now and are finding out. And it's really starting to, over just the last couple of years, I'm seeing more and more people actually get out there and talking about menopause.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, the more we talk about it, the more it's going to get out there, and be that stigma about it is going to go away, and the shame of it is going to go away, and women are just going to know more, and we're not going to we hopefully will not be told that it's all in our head, that we're just crazy.
Yeah. And how much is gut health tied into all of that?
So
Is it really like, I mean, I imagine it's intimately connected, perhaps?
oh yeah, so what do I want to say? Good lord, serotonin. Whew, there we go, serotonin. It's been a long day. And 95% of our serotonin is produced in our gut, which is that calm, healthy, happy hormone. Progesterone tends to be one of our calm, healthy hormone, chill out hormones. So that's now going down. If we have an unhealthy gut, we're not producing that serotonin.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to kind of balance that out. There's like a huge hole to it all that just gets my science mind going. We have a microbiome in there that is meant specifically to break down estrogen. If that microbiome isn't healthy, it's not breaking down the estrogen, then we can reabsorb that estrogen.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, when that estrogen starts to go hunky wire, it changes the environment, the bacterial environment there in our gut. And so our gut health affects our hormones affect our gut. And as the estrogen, progesterone go down, the oh my god, it's been one of those days. Our cortisol, our stress hormone,
Yeah.
we just can stress so much easier. And so then the stress affects our gut, and there's that gut brain connection. And depression, anxiety are huge during the perimenopause period.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's just all these little things weaving together to affect it all.
Well, I find it really interesting because I have my own personal journey with gut health, and in my 20s, I had an interesting experience. I had a Kundalini awakening that really wreaked a huge amount of havoc on my body. Now, I think I was already beginning to have digestive issues, but when that hit, everything went haywire. Well, haywire, like my digestive system just shut down, and I entered into deep, 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 deep depression, like
Mm.
scary depression. And And I was so desperate. I tried all kinds of things. I was going to an acupuncturist. I was going to a Reiki healer. I went and saw an osteopath. I went to an Ayurvedic doctor. And what I found the most astonishing to me is that first of all, going to Western medicine was the least helpful,
Mhm.
uh, because they just look, I told him my symptoms, and he says, "Oh, here, just take this anti-anxiety pill," and that was it. I was like, "Wow," you know, um, and so I personally feel, and I don't know if you see it in the clients that you work with, but it took me many years to realize, like, I was being told that it was all in my head, that
Mhm.
I just had a mental health issue and I just needed to think different thoughts. Literally, like,
Yeah.
you just need to go get some counseling. And so I did, but it didn't help. I mean, thankfully, my experience, I mean, it was a wild ride. Obviously, there was some kind of bigger, different plan for me, and I ended up sort of having this miraculous healing journey, but it took me many, many years to realize, like, okay, like, the gut was something that was always an issue from the get-go. I think as an infant, having colic, um, uh, and just growing up on the SAD diet, which is, I forget what it stands for, but it's like,
Standard American
yes,
diet.
standard American diet. We're talking country crock margarine and the
Oh
chicken
yeah.
nuggets and the Coca-Cola and all that stuff. And my parents didn't know any better, of course. And so, and then of course, taking antibiotics for every single
Oh
like
yeah.
health issue. And, so by the time I hit my 20s, my gut was already compromised. And so this whole health crisis I went through was um, just like a profound experience. And I would say that even to this day, it's like I really have to be aware of what I'm eating. And like, actually, just in the last 3 months, I finally like bit the bullet. I'm like, okay, I'm cutting out all sugar, I'm cutting out all wheat, I'm cutting out all dairy.
Mhm.
And because I'm tired of the brain fog and the tiredness, and it's just you hit midlife and you're like, yeah, I have to change. Um, so when you work with clients, like, um, what are the things that you look at? Tell us, like, how do you work with people? I noticed that you have different programs. You have the hormone health transformation, the metamorphosis, lifestyle reset, etc. Do you want to talk about like those different programs?
Sure. Except I need to update my website.
Oh, okay.
That is on my list to do. Oh, 'cause I've been doing some redoing of programs here. Um, so what I have is Revitalife and Rejuvalife are my two main programs now.
Hmm.
Revitalife, yes, is Revitalize is my 4 week program. Basically, it's kind of just an introduction, getting started, talking about hormones, about the perimenopause period, and really working with stress, mindset, diet, finding the foods. Like, I say, let's put on our white scientist jacket and let's talk about the foods and play scientist. When you eat this food, what affects you? If you take that food out, how do you feel? And so figure out what foods really feel good to you and what foods really make you feel bad.
Hmm.
And I figured that out one time. When I was going through my course, my coaching course, we have this detox diet that they gave us as a freebie that we can use with clients. So a bunch of us got together and said, let's do this. And it's eliminating pretty much the major allergen type of foods. And I just remember the second week thinking, I don't have this congestion. I wake up, and it's been for years. I wake up in the morning and I just have this congestion and I cough and cough and cough. And have all this drainage all morning. And all of a sudden it was like, I don't have that anymore. And it went back to dairy.
Uh-huh.
And I
Yeah.
kept the dairy out, and it was like all this, as I kept complaining about the allergens in my home or the allergens in my house, but it was the allergen, or not necessarily the allergen, but the food that was irritating me,
Hmm.
causing that. So that's what I like to go. Let's like really look down into what foods make you feel good. And we know the foods that are the foods that are going to be the ones that we're going to have the most intolerances about. So we're going to talk about those and look at those. Um, the stress, yeah, working on stress, because that's a huge thing. And stress, like I said, we stress out so much more during that perimenopause, or it's so much easier to stress, but stress causes the inflammation that affects our gut.
Yeah.
um, Talk about mindset, because we just need to have a whole different mindset about this time period. It's a
Hmm.
new life stage, and some women can even go through a bit of a grieving period because we're losing our ability to have babies. Not that in my 40s, I had teenagers. There's no way I would have wanted to have a
Yeah.
toddler. Um, but there can be that grieving process. And then, of course, our body fat composition shifts and changes, and our bodies look different. And so that gets you down. So, kind of changing that mindset, like how can we learn to look at ourselves in a new, healthier way? And this is our body now. And this is not the beginning of the end, but this is a new stage in life. And like, let's go out there and live that life and make it your best life. Um, so we just work on that whole holistic. I love the whole piece of it, energy work and
Hmm.
getting rid of the negative feelings. So we just do a little bit of everything in that 4-week program.
Hmm.
I touch on gut health just to kind of get that started out there. So
Hmm.
then we move on to the Rejuvalife program, and that's an 8-week program. And that's like huge. That's a group program because we are building a community of women that are moving through this whole menopause transition. So we're making this community, making it a support, because that's the one thing we don't have, is everybody's going through it in their own way, and not having the support, and out there feeling like they've lost their mind. And I know I have a coworker who, I know she's like so grateful that she works with me, because she's having terrible, huge issues with anxiety and panic attacks. And I was
Mm.
like,
Yeah.
it's related to your age, and her doctor's just throwing meds at her. Um, so we want this community to support each other, because we're all going through this.
Hmm.
But there we really get down deep into, let's work on your gut health. And so we actually go through 5 weeks of food removal. Like, let's get rid of all these foods, the big allergens, the or intolerances, the wheat, the dairy, the soy, the corn, sugar, processed foods. There's a few other things that we eliminate for that time period.
Hmm.
Once we get through that, then we try to do a little reintroduction and see what your body finds.
Hmm.
And then, but during that whole process, we go back to working on all the other stuff, the mindset, getting the joyful movement, stress reduction. I have somebody coming in who actually will come in and do work with the whole energetics piece of it, and the negative, what I would say, the energies that hang out in us, because we know that different negative feelings and energies hang out in different parts of our body. So
Hmm.
let's get rid of well, we want to get rid of any of it, because that will just make us feel better. But there can be stuff hanging out in our gut that prevents that healing.
Yeah.
So we just go on, and then I do some one-on-one sessions during that time period to just help the woman focus in onto what she wants to do, and help support her on her specific journey.
Hmm.
And then from there is the 6 week. 6-month metamorphosis. And that's more of a transitioning you through, because we know the gut is not going to be healed in 8 weeks. So
No.
this is like that major, really deep into it, supporting you through.
Yeah.
Because if you eat a piece of bread today, it can take 90 to 120 days for your body to actually stop reacting to that piece of bread.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right? Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy. I never heard that before. I mean, I know it takes us a long time to digest our food to
Mm.
begin with, but yeah, I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah.
Wow, that is crazy. So, like, how long, if someone's like, okay, I want to heal my gut,
Hmm.
they've got gut issues, and of course, everybody's different. Some people's guts are more damaged than others, but
Right.
what would you say is like, you know what, you're going to need to plan on at least, you know, doing a certain kind of diet for X amount of time? Like, what would that time period really, you could, say is needed?
I would say I suggest at least a good 6 months, because
Yeah.
that's your time period. And then if you want to at that point, because you've given your gut a good time period to start doing some healing, because we're not just healing. I mean, we have the microbiome that we're going to try to balance out the good and bad,
Hmm.
and but the gut lining, the the gluten and the dairy just damn it, well, and all the stuff from our sad diet
Yeah.
um, damages that lining of our gut. And so it's just going to take a lot of time for that gut lining to build back up again
Yeah.
and heal, so that we're not where we have what we call leaky gut, where
Yeah.
the gut opens up a little more, so rather than just the small nutrients passing through, the actual, we can have more toxins and food particles pass through. So you need time to let that heal. And it does, it's going to depend on the person. I have a lab that we can go through and do some gut testing, and it can tell us kind of what supplements are going to be best for taking care of that person's gut at that time period. So, I know when I did that, I did a good 6 month total elimination, didn't eat any of it. And then, if I want to here and there have a little bit of something, but for the most part, I just try to keep away those.
Yeah, it seems like, once you make those big changes and you find like, okay, this is something. I mean, it would seem to me that if your focus is on healing your gut so you can have happy, healthy hormones and all of that,
Mhm.
that it's not like, okay, I'm going to eliminate these things for 6 months to a year, and then I'm going to go back.
Right.
Like, you pretty much, I don't think you ever really go back. I mean, maybe you can tolerate, like you say, having a little treat here and there,
Mhm.
and it's not going to kill you, but it seems like really it requires,
Maintenance.
yeah, like just a commitment of like,
Mhm.
okay, this is a new lifestyle and this is how
Yes.
I choose to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do know when I sneak some of that stuff in, I know it.
You feel it immediately. I think, yeah, I think it probably just gets more pronounced as you get older,
Mhm.
wouldn't you
Right.
say?
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
because I mean, that's just the way I was feeling before, and I never thought about it. And then now that I don't feel that, so, if I eat that piece of bread, my stomach bloats and
yeah,
it hurts. And I was like, I probably lived like this all the time and didn't realize it.
right. Yeah, yeah. And so that's interesting. So, what are like, could you say are maybe, if there is such a thing, like what are the top, you know, 3 to 5 things a woman, like every woman should do to support her hormonal health as she is entering into, you know, perimenopause, going into menopause? Like, are there certain things that across the board, like all women should know about? Or is it really just highly
Well, it's
individualized?
individualized, but like there's just some things that you can really just do. And I always go back to sleep as being top priority.
Mm,
We just need that. We're going to deal with stress much easier when we get the sleep. And I know you're like, okay, Kim, I'm going through this and I'm having the hot flashes. I'm up all night because of this. And so then we go back to like, let's look at diet. What are you doing in your diet? Because the sugars and the processed foods and alcohol and caffeine all increase the intensity of hot flashes. So finding that right diet that's going to help decrease the hot flashes, doing the right bedtime routine, getting that healthy sleep is all going to help.
yeah.
Finding the ways to decrease your stress, because we all have stress. I mean, that's life.
It's modern life. Yeah. You're not going to get away from it. I mean, as far as I can tell, at least not anytime soon.
Right. Yeah. To find your stress management. What did they say? Your diet, your sleep, your stress
Your stress management.
management.
Yeah. So
Movement.
physical exercise, movement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Joyful movement, I call it. Don't exercise to me sounds like a punishment.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, no, I can't do it. I have to, it's got to be dancing or,
right.
swimming, playing in the river. I mean, something fun. Like I could never
Something,
just be on a treadmill. Like
you know, yeah,
I,
yeah,
I salute those people that can do that. But
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and in middle age too, you want to bring the intensity of your workouts down too,
Okay.
because
Dance part. Someone just commented, dance parties. Yes.
yes,
Dance parties all the way. I'm all about that.
yep, yep. Hey, turn on the '80s music and let's dance.
Right?
But yeah, you want to bring that intensity down because that's a stress on the body, and because our bodies stress out so much more now and causes inflammation, blah blah blah. You know, um, strength training is super important
Mm.
because
Is that like
estrogen,
lifting weights
lifting weights.
or yeah,
Yep,
or
yep,
resistance
weights,
training? Yeah.
resistance.
Okay.
Yep, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Because estrogen decrease or the decrease in estrogen, we lose muscle mass and muscle tone.
Yeah.
So getting that
I've
strength training. I've even seen one one gynecologist I follow wears a weighted vest too, because
oh, interesting.
the lack of estrogen kind of starts that bone depletion, getting more porous bones. So
Uh-huh.
using that
Yeah.
keeps that bone, what do I want to say, being packed down. So keeping the strength of the bone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Very
So
cool.
diet, sleep, stress, movement. Those are usually my
Yeah.
top ones. But even
But
doing some self work and finding you and what brings joy to you.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was just having a chat with my husband the other night and I was like, really to live your best life, I feel like you really have to see yourself as the most precious thing on the planet.
Hmm.
Because we as women in generally speaking, tend to overgive and overdo and over worry and we let ourselves, you know, off on the wayside. And the bottom line is, it's like all you've got is you,
Yep.
and you've got this one life, you got this one body, and health is true wealth.
Yes.
If you don't have health, you have nothing. And I know what that's like. In my 20s, that massive health crisis. I mean, I felt like I was dying, really. I mean, I couldn't do anything. I had chronic fatigue, the whole thing. And it's like, here I had basically all this talent and all this, I got all the A's. I performed for everyone else, and I did well in school, whatever, and did all the achievement things. But then, once my health was gone, I was like, huh, wow,
Yeah.
you can't do anything. You can't work. You can't, socialize. You can't, and so um, I don't think people really realize until they hit that health crisis that your health and your gut is paramount. It's everything. The gut, brain, heart, those three brains are also intimately
Oh,
connected.
yes.
Someone just asked, how common is missed menstrual cycles around the age of 40? I'm dealing with an autoimmune issue, and this has happened a few months in a row. Are we talking about possible spiritual root causes at all? So missed menstrual cycles around age 40, is that common?
It can be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As we go into that perimenopause period, your periods could be more spaced out, like missing them. It could be closer. Your bleeding could be lighter. It could be heavier. Um, there's so many things like at that point, typically age 40 is a little early to be starting into some of that, but you just don't know either.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
So would
know
you so would you say it's recommended for sure to, get checked out by a
definitely,
gynecologist or
yes, yes,
your pediatrician or whatever, your family health
yeah.
doctor? Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I can come up with 70 to 80 different things that could be associated with the perimenopause menopause journey.
Yeah.
But you also want to make sure there's nothing. Heart palpitations is one of them. So do I want to go, oh, I'm having heart palpitations, I'm in perimenopause, when you really could be having a heart thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
just making sure you're following up. But the one thing we have to, we talk about our modern medicine is they want to treat that symptom.
Yeah. Right.
So, hmm
So it's kind of like, if there is something going on that's got a name other than perimenopause,
hmm
like find out what it is and then, explore your options, decide what route you want to go healing wise. But um, yeah, it seems to me that to really deal with this stuff that is it's at a core level that you really have to approach it from all different angles, like you're saying, in a holistic way, not just like, oh, I'm just going to start, rubbing some progesterone cream on myself and I'm good. Like, you know, it's a little bit more of that. It's like really being mindful of, okay, my body's changing and now I need to start doing things differently and approaching having a relationship with myself
yes.
that is more loving and caring and taking into account, like embracing this period. Um, I have a very good friend who is already in menopause. She's on the other side of it. I'm 49, so I still have some ways to go. But one of the things that she said to me, that just to put out there is, so many women, it's so often there's this attitude, like you're saying, oh, to grow old as a woman, like, oh, it's so, like you're talking about the grief and all of this.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that she has told me, she's like, what I love about getting older is that I just finally don't care what anybody else thinks
Yes.
anymore. And I am so comfortable with who I am. I know who I am. There's no more proving myself to anyone. So I feel like there's an anchoring in of wisdom or something as
hmm
you become the crone, right? Like there's
Yes.
just this like, oof, like, elder women are powerful and amazing. And
Mhm.
that's one of the things that I like to, you know, connect with on that level with women. Is just like, just because you hit a certain age doesn't mean that your life is over. Like you were saying, it's like, it's just a new chapter. And what are you going to do next? Like, bring it on.
Right.
It'll be different. It'll look different, but it doesn't mean that you don't get to enjoy life anymore. You don't get to go and pursue your passions. You don't, you know, you don't have to like slowly fade away and be unnoticed. I think that I think we're in a time where, yeah, that the rising of the divine feminine and just women really come into their power and like, we've got work to do, you know,
Yeah.
and yeah,
You go, girl, right?
bring it on. Yeah. Um, well, so if someone wants to work with you, where do they go? So your website is
LiveThriveWellness.com.
livethrivewellness.com.
Yep.
Okay.
And contact me through there. Um, I'm always on Facebook
Uh-huh.
under Kim Rendon, and I'm on Instagram, LiveThrive_wellness. So you can find me kind of on those three places and send me a DM. I'm open there. Just say, hey, Kim, help me.
Yeah.
I'm dying.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Um, awesome. And thanks to everyone who jumped in and watched a bit of this. I see we have one person that's on right now. If you're watching the replay, let us know. Just type in hashtag replay. And, you know, if you want to ask questions in the thread here, feel free to do that. You can tag Kim with your question. Yeah. And so, yeah, I know I cannot stress the importance enough of the gut and hormonal connection, the health that is so important. And we really can't take anything for granted. Um, we really have to be our own advocates and our own warriors because nobody else is going to do it for you. So, you know, you got to seize the reins and, yeah, just make those really impactful decisions. And so, yeah, I encourage anyone who is struggling with hormonal issues going into perimenopause and really having a hard time with it, reach out to Kim and she can help you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am more than happy because we don't want to have to struggle. This is going to be our best life ever. So.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on this live stream. I appreciate you, and I'm so happy to have connected with you. And um, we'll reconnect soon, sometime, I'm
Yes.
sure. All right.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye, bye everyone.